Ladies. Hello, ladies. It is an honor to be here tonight with all of you, and I'm so excited to meet you and deliver this presentation. I'm so honored that you have shown interest in lupus. It is a personal mission for me. So I'm Wendy Rogers. I am the director of our Care and Support Services Department at the Lupus Foundation of America. My key roles here are to deliver national education on lupus. I oversee our amazing team of health education specialists who work with people who have been impacted by lupus one-on-one. And then I also oversee our national network of lupus. And I personally have lived with lupus for the past 25 years. So I'm glad to be here. So the vision for our organization is a life free from lupus. So we do work in several capacities to just try to help people and meet people where they are. We have four big divisions of our work, and the first one is research. We're working really, really hard. It's very difficult to get treatments for lupus, but over the last few years, we've shown some amazing work and breakthroughs with several new drugs that are now out on the market for lupus. When I first started my own work in advocacy here, I used to say it had been over 50 years since a new medication for lupus had been developed. And really, there was never a lupus drug. We would borrow a lot of medications. And then education, this is part of my work. And we have other divisions, which you probably met Dr. Millicent Miller, who also works to provide education to our healthcare providers. Support, we really try to meet people where they are. I just want to share right off the bat, we have a support group for youth, and we have a support group for Black women who are living with lupus. So if you or someone you know that is a Black woman, we do have a place for you. And then advocacy, we're on Capitol Hill every year in Washington, D.C., advocating for funding for researchers as well as improved policy. So that's kind of a snapshot of who we are. Now I'll get into the nitty gritty. Like I said, this is personal for me. This was a picture I had a very hard time for a very long time showing, but I just want to show you because a lot of times when you live with lupus, you really don't look like how you feel or what you're going through. And that is really the biggest difficulty with lupus, is people don't often believe you. And here I am. I had been in the hospital for 6 months fighting for my life. Prior to this, I was an athlete. I was president of my high school class. I went to the University of Houston and pursued my degree in biology, and I planned to be an eye doctor. But I was diagnosed with lupus right after I moved to California from Texas and got married. And then I started having symptoms. And this was totally foreign to me. I had never, ever been sick. The worst thing I probably had was strep throat or the flu. And so to start having symptoms of lupus, I overlooked a lot of them. And long story short, I had a child when I was 16, and I had a natural childbirth and no problems, healthy, happy baby, just going on with my life and going to college and working with my family and just living life. And then moved here doing the same. And what I decided to do was teach for a couple of years because I had to wait to become a California resident. And I noticed symptoms started occurring. I didn't know what they were. I had never, ever heard of lupus. And I just didn't know. I didn't know what it was. And so I started having a lot of fatigue. I started having my hair falling out. I started just, having achiness and trying to just function in life. And it was just getting difficult until one day I woke up and it was like I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. And that's what sent me to the doctor. And when they did my vitals, my blood pressure was so high, it was in what was considered the stroke range. I could have had a stroke at any moment. I was 27 at the time. And that's where my life changed. And so the doctor couldn't even tell me why I was having high blood pressure. And so I did my own research and I ran across an article in a women's health book that I had at home, and I asked to be tested for lupus. And sure enough, that's what it was. I had to go to a specialist who actually didn't treat me very nice. He thought I was just kind of plain doctor. But I was diagnosed with lupus and I had a big relief. But the problem was I did not know what that entailed. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know things I needed to put in place to live with lupus. I just had an answer and a name for what was wrong with me. So I was officially diagnosed in February of 2000. By August of that same year, I was in ICU fighting for my life. And so I just kind of did a snapshot of what I went through and some of the things that were on my list post the diagnosis. And it was life-changing. And I love doing this work and especially love talking to Black women and the minority community because when people get this diagnosis that look like me, it can be really, really serious. People with, that are minority, especially Black women, will be diagnosed with lupus or have lupus at a younger age. They will have more severe symptoms, and the likelihood that they could pass away is a little bit higher than other people. So it's really, really important to not play with your health and to go to the doctor and, ask questions. And that was one of the things with me. I was really scared to ask questions at first until one day I just realized I don't feel well. I haven't been feeling well for a long time and I got to get serious with it. So one of the things that came out, I had to do dialysis. I needed a kidney transplant. And 15 years ago, I was gifted the gift of life, as we call it, and I received a kidney transplant. And my lupus has been very, very quiet. I've been able to come back to the workforce, and I was selected by our former CEO to come and work here. So that's kind of a snapshot of me. So I'm not looking at eyeballs, but I'm helping a wonderful patient community. So now I just want to take you through a lupus 101 so you'll know how many of you have actually heard of lupus or know what it is. I'm just curious. Okay. All right. All right, good, good. I'm glad to see that because when you say the word lupus, one of the frustrating things is a lot of times people don't know what you're talking about. It's like, oh, what's that? Or, and so there's some symptoms or some myths, I would like to say, that are very, very common. I didn't mean to do that. That are very common to lupus. And there's three big myths that we have to really address that people think lupus is. So it's not cancer. People with lupus will often have to do chemotherapy treatment. I did that. All my hair fell out like a cancer patient. But lupus is not cancer. In cancer, you have an overgrowth of cells. And if any of you are science majors or love science, you probably know this. In lupus, the problem is our immune system, which is the system that protects itself from foreign invaders and disease and viruses and all the things that don't belong. It cannot tell the difference between what's healthy and what's not. So it works very good. In fact, the immune system is overactive. So it's like a little busybody. It's doing its work. It's using all the tools to keep us healthy. But the problem is it doesn't know what to get rid of and what not to attack. It's just doing everything. And so I like to say there's a glitch in the autoimmune system. And so this is the problem with lupus is, it's attacking everything. So in cancer, it's an overgrowth of your cells that are dividing rapidly, rapidly, rapidly. And you'll see the development of tumors wherever it has developed. The second myth is that lupus is contagious. Lupus is not something you can catch. It's not a bacteria. It's not a virus. It's not some kind of foreign thing you can pick up. You can't get it through intimacy or sexual contact. Like I said, it is a glitch in your immune system. It's something that's chronic. We don't have a cure at this time for lupus. So when you have this diagnosis, it's going to be something you deal with for the rest of your life. And that's okay because, we have a lot of tools to give people to live a long, healthy life with lupus. In fact, the statistics of people passing away with lupus due to a complication are very low. Only 10 to 15% of those living with lupus will pass away from a complication if they have help. It's really important to have a medical care team and know what to do to and make life changes. And then the last thing is lupus is not like or related to HIV. And so HIV, you can see here, it's an actual virus. And I just mentioned lupus is not a virus, it's a glitch in the autoimmune system, and it's different in each person. So this is the kind of disease I say it's like the customized disease where you can't look to the right or the left and compare yourself to people all the time, because people will have their own experiences. When I meet other people that are lupus warriors, we might have things in common, but the way we've experienced them might be different. And the problem with this disease is it can attack any part of your body, your heart, your skin, your joints, and it's unpredictable. There's no set pattern where you're like stage 1, stage 2. And so that's what makes it difficult. And I'll talk a little bit about that, about diagnosis. Here are the most common symptoms of lupus. And just at glance, they might not seem too bad. I do want to just highlight a few of them that really stand out, and that's swelling, photosensitivity, hair loss, the painful or swollen joints, and extreme fatigue. And one of the most visible ones is what we call the butterfly rash or the malar rash. And so I just want to touch on these. Swelling is really important to watch because this can be an indicator of kidney issues. And that was kind of like what happened to me. Lupus, for whatever reason, loves the kidney, and it will often attack the kidney. In fact, up to 60% of those who have been diagnosed with lupus might have kidney issues. It doesn't mean that you'll always go into kidney failure, but you have to really work and protect your kidney. Another big symptom to pay attention to is photosensitivity. And so it's really important for people living with lupus to protect themselves when they're exposed to UV light, even in the house. And even as Black women, we have to wear sunscreen. And that was something I often would explain. Growing up, I was a lifeguard and I grew up with the pool at my home, and I was swimming all the time, and I would burn so badly. And so even when you go out at the hot times of the day, you need to cover up or invest in sun protective clothing. And so it doesn't matter what color your skin, how much melanin you have, you need to protect it. And that's why I was really excited to see Black Girl Sunscreen, because I thought it was a great, great product to let us know we got to protect our skin too. The fever, just to touch on, this is the type of fever where it's not attached to an infection. It just happens. It can come and go. You don't know why it's there, but it's just a response to lupus. The painful or swollen joints, about 95 to, I will believe, almost 100 people with percent of people that have lupus have some level of pain every day. Sometimes it can even affect people's mobility to walk around. Some people even develop arthritis because of the wear and tear. So that's something that's very, very noticeable when you have lupus. The extreme fatigue is basically where you're just tired all the time. And this is the type of thing where people don't think, you're really, really tired, because you can be, really tired one day, the next day you have energy. So it's not consistent all the time. But the best way I can make you understand this is, imagine like you charge your iPhone or your cell phone. It's never going to reach 100% charged. It might reach 99% or 99.999. You just never reach 100% recharge when you have lupus. And then the rash, it looks like a butterfly because it goes over the bridge of your nose. On our skin, it might look a little bit darker. It usually does not scar. It just kind of comes and goes. But that is one of the most visible forms of lupus. And then hair loss, I'll touch on. Our hair is a big thing in our culture, in our community. And so when it starts falling out and things of that nature, it really can affect a person's sense of feeling beautiful or being seen. You might not feel worthy anymore. So we do a lot of work around, supporting people. And I can only imagine, as women who are in a pageant, beauty is a big thing, for you, I'm sure. And so when people have like the scarring and the hair loss, it really gets them down, really gets them down. So those are just some of the symptoms, and I'll be glad to answer questions later, but I just wanted to highlight some of the big ones. And people can be diagnosed from different specialties. Lupus is one of those things that can affect the person from head to toe. And I love this infographic just so that you can see. I'm not going to go through everything, but I just wanted you to see that no two people are alike. You might have a couple of those, and the severity of these can really range, but we do a lot of work based on how lupus impacts the body. So who gets lupus? 90% of people who are diagnosed are lupus, and you are women. And you probably know this woman right here. You're a little young, but Toni Braxton is a celebrity that's had lupus. She's come to our walk. I live in Los Angeles, so you know, she is not exempt from it. It can affect anybody, but women are most likely to develop it, especially minority women. And this is partially because we have more hormones, specifically estrogen, and I'll touch on that in a minute. It's more prevalent among racial and ethnic minority groups, Black people, Hispanic, Asians, Asian Pacific Islanders. They will usually have the development of lupus younger, have more severe cases of lupus, but our communities are at the top of the list when we look at who develops lupus. Children can develop lupus, and often when someone is diagnosed with lupus as a child, they will be more likely to have severe outcomes when they're diagnosed. 15 to 20% of SLE diagnosed people diagnosed in childhood are even more likely to have lupus nephritis, which means the lupus attacks the kidney. And so you have to be really careful with people who are diagnosed as a kid. It ranges from 12 to 14, but usually after age 8. It's very rare that someone will develop lupus before age 5. And the ratio girls to boys is about the same as adults, like 8 to 1. Men get lupus too. And so for a long time, it was hard for people or guys to accept this because lupus was often seen as or considered to be a woman's disease because 90% of those diagnosed are women. So they were embarrassed to say they had lupus. Michael Jackson had lupus, but he never wanted to say it. So when guys get lupus, you know, they can suffer just as bad as women. There's a few symptoms that stand out that are more prominent or pronounced in men than women, and they're listed right here in the blue, but guys will have lupus too. So we actually have a very specific support group called the Man Cave for fellas that have been diagnosed so that they can have their own space. They tell us they love us, but they want their own space. So we have something for the guys. The causes of lupus, I already mentioned hormones, specifically estrogen. Your genetics, our researchers and scientists have found over 50 biomarkers on our genetic code that could lead to the development of lupus. And so this is why it's different from person to person. There's not one magic pill that everybody could take to manage their lupus or get rid of it. And so you really do have to look at, you know, how lupus has impacted a person by person. And then the environment plays a role. We have what we call environmental triggers. And so here's a few of them listed. UV rays like the sun can trigger lupus. Certain drugs like penicillin or tetracycline drugs can trigger lupus. And there's 3 big drugs that play a part, which most people don't, you know, take regularly, but you can have even drug-induced lupus. And then illness like having the flu or catching a cold, exposures or having an infection can trigger your lupus. And so that's why we really encourage people to take good care of themselves, have hygiene, and also stress. Stress is really the #1 thing. And it's kind of funny because with stress, I think it's the most ridiculous thing to kind of keep a stress-free life. How is that even possible? When I got this diagnosis, I was like, this is a joke. But you do have to learn to decide what you need in your life, what you don't, how to ask for help, and when to stop and rest. And I'll say most people that have lupus are the ones in charge. They're the type A personalities, they're the busybodies. And so people have to learn to slow down and take their time and pay attention to their body. And then an injury, a fall, a car accident, things like that, where there's harm to the body can trigger lupus. So researchers today think that an environmental agent like one of these that I mentioned, randomly encountered by a genetically susceptible person, acts to trigger lupus. And so that's kind of what it is and how it comes about. And as you can see, it's kind of a perfect storm of this. It can also be passed down through families. It's not a direct passing. You'll see some families, it's very prevalent in the families where sometimes a person is diagnosed and they don't know anybody else in their family with lupus. So it really varies. So there's 4 types of lupus. The main one is what we call systemic lupus erythematosus, or SLE. It's usually referred to as just lupus. It accounts for 70% of cases of lupus. The other one is cutaneous lupus, which is isolated to your skin. So you'll see like rashes development. This is where people will often have their hair falling out. They're very sensitive to the sun, and this accounts for about 10% of lupus cases. It also can stand for CLE, cutaneous lupus erythematosus. Drug-induced lupus is the only form of lupus that is curable. And it makes up about 10% of all cases. And this is the one that's like an allergic reaction to a medication. And there are about 46 drugs that can do this. There's 3 specifically that can trigger lupus, but it is the one form of lupus that will go away. And then finally, neonatal lupus is not really a true form of lupus. We have it categorized, but it's not really a true form. It's actually considered a rare condition. And basically what happens is when a mother is carrying their baby, there are 2 types of antibodies that will act upon the fetus or the baby, and it's called anti-RO and anti-LA. And that will cause the baby to be born with, like a rash. It could also have a heart blockage. But usually as the baby grows, the symptoms go away. And it doesn't mean that, the mom has lupus. So this is kind of why it's not considered true lupus. So how is lupus diagnosed? Well, I often say you have to build your case. And I hate that it's not a specific way to diagnose lupus. As I mentioned in my story, when I went to the doctor, they thought I just had high blood pressure and that was it. And that wasn't the case. There was an underlying problem. So you have to look at your past and present symptoms. It's really important for people to, jot down their symptoms or track what's happening to them, because it can be like a series of random events. You also have to look at your medical history. In my case, I had never been sick or anything, but now that I have been diagnosed, I could look back at times where I thought, oh my God, I remember getting so tired sometimes and just sleeping all day, or breaking out in a rash, and I just thought it was acne. And so, you really have to look at things, because a lot of times we're overlooking things, and that's really what it is, but it hasn't gotten bad enough where we need to go to the doctor. Your family history, if someone else in your family has lupus, then you should keep that in mind and pay attention. And if you have anything you worry about, you need to bring it up to your doctor. Never be afraid to say, hey, I'm kind of concerned about my health. And then lab tests play a part. And there's a series of lab tests. There's one specific test that often will confirm lupus, but it's not guaranteed. And that's called the ANA test. And so we see in 97% of cases, if people are saying that it is positive, or if it comes out positive, more than likely you will have lupus. But there are people that have lupus and their test has never been positive. And then sometimes you might have to have biopsies. Like in my case, when it attacked my kidneys, I had to have a kidney biopsy to see how severely lupus had affected my organ. And so that's another form that had another form of test that could be used. But we also use like urinalysis and other blood tests to come to an answer. So it's not just one single thing. So coming to a diagnosis can be very frustrating to people. A lot of times when people come to us, they are just at their wits' end. And the problem is it can attack different things And then when you get to the doctor, it goes away. So people sometimes are like, oh, what were you talking about? I don't even see anything here. So symptoms come and go. They can be mild to severe. They will change from day to day sometimes, but there's no single test. And the crazy part is, and the sad part is, it can take an average of 6 years to diagnose lupus. 63% reported being incorrectly diagnosed when we surveyed them, and more than half of those that were misdiagnosed saw 4 or more doctors trying to get an answer. So it can be a tough thing, and you can see Malia here. I met her. I hope she's doing well in life, but you can see she was diagnosed at age 8, which is pretty rare. You know, it can affect anyone. So to treat lupus, I just want to touch on a few things. We need a rheumatologist. That's the main type of doctor that people with lupus need to have on their team, because that's who specializes in a disease like lupus. But if it affects any other organs, you have to add other specialists, like a dermatologist who treats the skin, or a heart doctor, a cardiologist, a nephrologist, or a neurologist. That, you know, the nephrologist treats your kidney. The neurologist looks at your brain and nervous system. So everybody kind of builds their team based on how lupus is impacting their body. There are 6 main categories that we use for treatment. And a lot of these have been borrowed from other medical specialty areas. There are the anti-inflammatories like Motrin. They're called the NSAIDs, things you can buy over the counter. We have the anti-malarials, which were originally made to treat malaria. And they've discovered that it could work for treating lupus. And so a lot of lupus patients take this. It's called hydroxychloroquine or Plaquenil. The biologics is like the hot topic area, because it's kind of the newer area. This is where our newest drugs are coming out of. And so we're really, really excited for this. The first ever drug identified and that came on the market just for lupus was Benlysta. And I was really honored to be one of the people that testified at our FDA to encourage the marketing of this drug. And so we were just so excited to see it. And here we are 13 years later, and it's worked really well in so many people. Anticoagulants are blood thinners, because some people are susceptible to blood clots, which could be pretty serious. And the other big category is the immunosuppressives. But basically what these drugs do is calm the immune system down, because remember, people with lupus have an overactive immune system. So it calms it down to help prevent it attacking different organs. So when people put together a treatment plan, the big goals are to control the symptoms like the joint pain, the fatigue, reduce inflammation, which is the key indicator that lupus is active. You can have inflammation anywhere in your body, and this is really telling people, hey, your lupus is active. So lupus can go into activity and it can quiet down. So it'll flare up and then it'll kind of quiet down. And then also you want to suppress the overall overactivity of this disease and try to prevent the flares from happening. And then the big picture about why it's important to come up with a medical plan and find what works with you is to protect your organs. It is not fun, and it was not fun for me to sit in a dialysis chair, because I was always the youngest person, first of all, going there. But it also, you know, made me lose a lot of activity with my friends and family, because I had to focus on that. And so you also have to look at your age, what symptoms you're experiencing, what kind of lifestyle you have, and your overall general health to make a treatment plan. So just to start closing out, to manage lupus, this is a great little just snapshot of things that people need to put in place once they have the diagnosis. Everybody kind of has their feeling when their lupus is flaring up. You can kind of feel it coming on. And so you want to try to avoid triggers. You want to be proactive in your care, which means you need to speak up. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't think that's working, or hey, I'm worried about that, or have somebody come with you to speak up on your behalf. You still need to eat healthy and be physically active, but you might have to slow down or do different types of activity. There's no lupus diet, so it's no specific way to eat, but you do need to eat healthy according to what, you can do. Some people have food allergies, so you have to work with a dietitian sometimes or a nutritionist to come up with a plan that works for you. And then managing the fatigue and pain is really important because this can exacerbate the activity of lupus. Manage your stress. I touched on that. Protect yourself from UV light. And this can be an exposure that people have effects from, even if they're inside. Sometimes when people are at work and they sit under the lights, they will have their lupus affect their skin or flare up. And then avoiding infection. So you want to, protect yourself, wash your hands, not, go out and about if you know people are sick. And so these are some ways you can manage your lupus activity. I want to close with a snapshot of programs and services we have. If you or someone you love has lupus, I'll just touch on a few of these. But I definitely want to share that we have health education specialists to talk with one-on-one. And I love these ladies because they're amazing and they really do care about people. You can talk with someone privately to ask your question, and they take the time to really help you find the answers. Support groups are really helpful too. I mentioned that we have one for Black women, we have one for youth, we have some across the country. After the pandemic, a lot of our support groups became virtual. We use the Zoom platform just like this, and people get to connect with people all over the country, and that's pretty cool. We have what we call the NRCL, or the National Resource Center on Lupus, and this is a one-stop shop. You can go to lupus.org/resources and just look through what we have. And we have a ton of things. We have videos, we have articles, we have things you can download, to learn about lupus. And then one of the big events I do, we will have one next week, is we have a national webinar. We do 4 or 5 of them every year. And my team brings in amazing specialists. Next week, it'll be on fatigue and pain management. And so people get to submit their questions and talk to specialists and hear from our leaders in science and research and medical care. And then, of course, for you that love to be on your phone, we have an app. It's called the Self app. You can download this and it'll customize suggestions to care for yourself according to how you're experiencing lupus. So that's pretty cool. I love that about it. You can also sign up for Take Charge, which is an email series. For 12 weeks, it will email you some tips and information on lupus. You can get involved. I didn't realize I was in that picture, but one of the things I wanted to highlight is our walk. We walk across the country. It's a great event, and it's really fun too. It's like a big reunion, and we raise money through the walks to support our research and our work. I mentioned we advocate. Every year we do our National Advocacy Summit in DC. It's open to everybody, families, friends, and you can come and share your story and connect with your congressional leaders. So it really makes a difference. So those are 2 things that are really helpful to get involved with us. And you can also start your own fundraiser that we can support. One thing that's not listed here, if any of you are gamers or know people who are gamers, we now have an event called Game On to End Lupus. And we have a lot of famous gamers that come on, and they have a 3-day event where they play and game and raise money for lupus. So you can get creative and do your own thing. We have a program called Make Your Mark that we can put you with one of our staff members that oversees that and raise awareness and funds. This is how you reach us. We're on all the handles. Our main number in DC is listed here. Our main email is here. And our website is just lupus.org. And our handles are lupus.org. Facebook, we're Lupus Foundation of America. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'll be happy, to help you or talk to you more. If you want to talk one-on-one or you need resources, this is my phone number and my email. And I just thank you, ladies, for doing this, and I hope you found it helpful.
Thank you so very much.
You're more than welcome.
I want to open up the floor for any questions that you all may have. Go ahead,
Okay.
Morgan, and start us off.
Hello, Sister Queens. Hello, Miss Rogers. My name is Morgan Pierce. I am Miss Florida HBCU teen. And my question is, as someone who's had lupus, because you have lupus,
Mm-hmm.
also has lupus, how would you say that your family members were able to help you? Like, how do you think would be the best way that I could probably help my mom? Because I don't really,
Hmm.
because she lives with it. So what's like something that helped you, like for with your family?
First of all, I want to share. I thank you for that question, Morgan, because I have to say, a lot of times when people are living with lupus, they don't really have a lot of compassion or support from their family members. And I think a lot of this comes from the way lupus is. It comes and goes. Some days you're doing fine, some days you can't get out of bed. And so people don't believe you, and they'll even call people, like flaky or they're faking it. And so just to listen to people, when people say that they don't feel good, they don't feel good. And usually I believe when a person with lupus says, I feel bad, it's like off the charts compared to one of somebody else. So being compassionate to listen, when you're helping somebody, it's really important to see what they find helpful. I don't know if you all have ever heard of like the 5 love languages, and people kind of have their thing. Some people like you to talk kind to them or uplift them. Some people like gifts. And so like for me, I'm the type of person, do a chore for me, or take a task off my to-do list. That's helpful for me, so I don't have to use more energy. That's kind of my thing. And so having a conversation with your mom or your loved one and say, you know what, I love you and I know this is a tough journey. Please let me know how I can help. I know I'm a kid. My daughter was 10 years old when I was diagnosed, and I'm gonna tell you, sister girl stepped up to the plate, and she was like, everybody was looking at her because she even learned how to put together my wheelchair, how to go to the grocery store and pick out things. She really grew up fast. And I really, I felt bad, but as young ladies, you have the ability to help others, and you often are inspiration. She was the reason why I fought to live, and so you're not too young to be a person to support your loved ones, but just being open to listening to them and saying, hey, I see you. I know this is not easy, and let me know what I can do to help. Because a lot of times people don't want to be a burden to their loved ones. And so they might not even say anything. And then just doing little things like, washing the clothes or cleaning up the kitchen or things like this, because it's hard sometimes to expend a lot of energy. There's a theory that we have in our community called the spoon theory, and you could look it up. And basically, what it says is everybody wakes up each day with a certain number of spoons. Like it might be 10 today, it might be 2 tomorrow. And the spoons stand for the amount of energy you have. And so if you have to do big events, then you're going to use a lot of spoons. If you have to do something lighter, that's less spoons. And so people with lupus have limited spoons in a day. And so just kind of getting in there and just, doing things that could help out without it being, a problem.
Thank you so much. That answered my
You're
question.
welcome.
All right, and then I have a question from the chat. This is coming from Kayla Shelton, who serves as Miss Texas HBCU Junior Team, and she wants to know how you were able to emotionally handle being diagnosed with lupus.
Woo. Well, I'm a strong Christian woman, and that was the first thing is I've never prayed so hard in my life to live or succeed or do anything. And I leaned on the Lord a lot. And I feel like he really answered my prayer, not only to be here, but to thrive. Because I'm gonna tell you, ladies, when I was sick, I had doctors that said, I'm sorry, we've done everything we could do. And you're not going to make it through the night. And I would just say, see you in the morning, see you in the morning. And I just put it in God's hands. So that's really what I did. But I also have a strong family. I have an amazing mom. I now live with my mom. My marriage fell apart and everything. And I've just had support. She was there from the beginning. I just had a ride or die mom. She spoke up for me on my behalf. She showed me how to, not be afraid to speak up on my own. And I really have a great set of friends. I'm still friends with my friends from like even kindergarten. We call ourselves the Diva Squad, and we travel every year. And we started getting together. And so really leaning into the people who really care about you is really important. And one of the gifts I think lupus has given me, which is can be difficult when even without lupus, in life, sometimes as you advance through your life, you kind of have people that aren't on your team, or you outgrow people. And so it's been real easy for me to see the people who are valuable to me or need to be in my life. Sometimes we got to slough off people, and it's not to be mean, but you just don't have energy for that. And so leaning on God, leaning into my family that that was there to support me, and allowing them to help me. Sometimes we can be prideful and we don't want people to help us because we see it as weakness, especially as Black women. We're taught to be strong and you can do this, but sometimes being strong is sitting down and resting too, so that you can get up another day. And so those are the things I did. And I also really invested time in learning lupus because I wanted to know what was I up against. I didn't want to be in the dark, because when I got this diagnosis, I was really shocked, and I had never experienced going to the doctor and they couldn't tell me the answer. I'm thinking, you went to medical school and you can't tell me? That was crazy to me. And so I wanted to know, what was I up against? And so those are the things. But being open to and honest about things. And then I got involved in things that are fun. Just because you have an illness or a challenge in your life doesn't mean you don't deserve to have fun. And so I intentionally do something every year that's fun to me. I like to travel. So I try to go somewhere, or do something that is memorable to me. I hope that helped. You're welcome, Kayla. What part of Texas are you in? Houston. Okay, that's where my family is, in Houston.
Alrighty, ladies, before I let Miss Wendy go for the evening, do we have any more final questions?
Well, okay, it was a pleasure to meet you. I'm so proud to see all of you. This really touched my heart. I used to be a teacher, and so pouring into our young people is something I really love to do. And I'm praying over you to go for your endeavors, and take care of yourselves. If you all need me, just reach out, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so much.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If y'all could stay on for 5 minutes, that would be great. Okay, so thank y'all all for joining this evening. I hope that it was informative to you. I will probably send out some information. As I stated earlier, we do have a partnership with the Lupus Foundation, and so there may be opportunity for you to do some programming with the Lupus Foundation in your city. And so if that is something that you are interested in, just let me know. Whether you are a current queen or a past queen, it does not matter. We are wanting to utilize all of you because you all have an audience somewhere. Before I let you all go, I just want to have our former queens that are on the call go ahead and introduce themselves. So, ladies, I'm sure y'all still remember y'all's introductions. So, if y'all could do your introductions, make sure that you include your name, your title, and then what university you are at. And then if you could give one piece of advice to our 2025 queen.
I'll go first. My name is Lakaira Hobbs. I reigned as Miss Oklahoma HBCU Teen 2023. I am actually from Dallas, Texas, so it was a little hurtful. I couldn't get my Miss Texas title. But I still have plenty of love for this organization. I know I haven't been as involved as my sister queens. I've been a little busy. I'm currently at Hampton University, and I'm soon transferring over to Xavier University in Louisiana. Um, Overall, my advice to y'all is please, please, please ensure that you are practicing at home way prior to the pageant. because I actually didn't. I struggled a lot with my dance. I struggled a lot with my talent as a whole. Kind of fell apart on stage. So if you go back and watch the video, you might see it. Um, but overall, that's my advice because performing is no joke. Sometimes the stage fright will hit you and you didn't even know you had it.
I will go next. Hello, beautiful queens. My name is Sanaya Jefferson. I served as the 2024 Miss Virginia HBCU teen, and I'm currently a sophomore psychology honors scholar at Norfolk State University. She kind of stole my piece of advice because I almost definitely did not practice my talent till the day of the pageant, but I had to give you something else. It would be to be comfortable in your skin. Miss HBCU teen was my first pageant. And I realized from that point that I was visually just not confident in who I was. And that pageant showed me that I had a reason to be confident. I had a reason to love myself and to be confident in my skin. And it has open barriers for me. Like I hear more often now, hey, you're beautiful, you're so pretty. And it's little stuff that I realized I was hearing the whole time that I was ignoring because I didn't feel confident about it.
Okay, I will go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Kisa Dupuy. I served as Miss Washington State HBCU Teen 2024, and I now serve as Miss HBCU Teen. I am currently a freshman at Howard University studying journalism, and my piece of advice would be y'all should definitely be true to yourselves and just be yourself on stage. The pageant itself, everyone's watching you, but at the end of the day, what matters is the performance you put out and how you feel you represented yourself when it's all done. And I would say just having that confidence on stage, like my sister Queen said, definitely staying true to yourself is my number one piece of advice because it will make you so happy in the end. It's such a rewarding experience.
Essence, you on mute. It's okay. It's okay.
Don't be like me, y'all. But thank y'all so much. And then for my current queens, I know Kayla's driving right now, but for Morgan and Genesis, if you guys would like to go through your introduction, not your on stage introduction, but just your shortened introduction, just so that everyone here can know who some of our current baby queens are.
Okay, wait, hold on, guys. All right, hello everyone. My name is Morgan Peters. I am serving as Miss Florida HBCU Teen. I am a senior at Apopka High School, and I plan to attend HU in the fall.
Sorry, there's a baby in there, so she may start screaming. But wait, what did I do? Okay. Hi, I'm Genesis Jenkins. I am Miss HBCU Delaware Junior Teen. I'm currently a ninth grader at Easton High School, and I plan to attend Howard University when I graduate, after I graduate.
Perfect. And then I know we have Kayla, who is Miss HBCU, who is Miss Texas HBCU Junior Teen. But I just want to thank everybody for jumping on tonight. This was a really great opportunity for you all to learn a bit more. Even myself, I am not familiar in depth with lupus. I knew Tony Braxton had it, but I didn't quite understand what the disease was. And so again, I just want to thank you all for joining this evening. And again, if you want to do some programming or get some more information or continue to educate yourself and others on lupus, please reach out to me and I can provide you with some information on how you can do that moving forward. But I'm going to let you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Super proud of our former queens and all the amazing things that y'all are doing on your college campuses. And so to our current queens, make sure that you stay connected with these women. I had the opportunity to be at Lakira's pageant, and she is amazing. And to Keitha's point, she truly stayed true to herself throughout pageant weekend. And so the tools and the tips that they are giving y'all are not things that they just made up today to say on this call. They are truly speaking from experience. And so I ask that you all would just stay connected to these women, even after pageant weekend. And so y'all have a great rest of y'all's evening. I'm going to go back to work, and y'all have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, y'all.